Well, hey, it's Marcus, and welcome to Zooming in the Jungle Room with me. I have got a very special guest on with me today. He's coming all the way from the eastern states. It is Peter Farnan, and he is, of course, from Boom Crash Opera. Hey, Peter, how are you?
I am well. I am from Boom Crash Opera, and I always have been.
Yay. Yes, one of the founding members. And can we just say that was 1984 when Boom Crash Opera formed, and I was there from the beginning. Late 1984, which means, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, I don't know if you do your maths very well, but that means 40 years.
That does freak me out. I have to slightly correct you.
Tell me.
Let me think here. Richard Pleasance and I started writing at the beginning of 84,
Yep.
but the five of us weren't together until the beginning of 85.
Okay.
I think I've got that right.
Yep.
Yeah, that is correct. We found our fifth person at the beginning of 85.
Yep.
So
Okay. So it's
I
not
know you
quite
really
40,
wanted to.
it's 40 years next
Yeah,
year.
yeah.
Now,
I,
of
I
course,
like I like that.
the first album came out in 1987, I believe. Um,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then, you've had 10 albums, including some greatest hits albums as well over the course of, these 39 years, which has been monumentous, just incredible. Now, I saw you in Adelaide just a couple of months ago with Bachelor Girl, a banging evening. It was sold out, huge night. And you were coming back to the Gov again on March the 2nd. What's brought you back so quickly?
We love playing, and we love playing the Gov. Actually, in fact, Adelaide. It sounds like I'm pissing in your pocket, Marcus, but Adelaide has always been a really good town for us, and we've, right back in the 80s and the 90s when we used to play the Old Lion and we used to play Heaven. Uh, we've always had fantastic audiences and fantastic time in Adelaide. So we're always delighted to go back. You can feel the energy coming from the audience. That's the great thing.
The night I saw it, like I said, a couple of months ago, it was huge. The energy in the room was just electric, and everyone was there for it. It was so good to see. And you, Dale, the whole group were just in finest form ever. Hey, but let's talk about the new show shortly. Let's go back to the beginning again. So obviously, you started to bring out some albums in 1987. Then there was the big one in 1989, and then another plethora of albums during the 90s. Would you consider yourself, Peter, an 80s band or a 90s band?
That's a really good question. I actually appreciate you asking it because I think we often get lumped in as an 80s band. And really, we sort of had three phases. We had that initial, the one with the first album, Great Wall, Hands Up in the Air, Countdown, the fancy London threads that we bought when we were in London, which we just thought was so good, but now look really naff. And so that was phase one. And then all of that sort of went away. It went away and it was almost as if, well, it's over. And then Crazy Times, well, really, the singles came out in '89, but I don't think the album was dropped until early '90, although maybe you know more about it than me. And so we see that as being sort of the imperial phase. 1990 was when the band was very big live. 90 through to 93, that was sort of the imperial phase, running album 2 into album 3. And then finally we see the next phase as being when we kind of jettisoned all our baggage and lost some members, and we made Born, which was a sort of basically experimental record, really, and that was the less successful. Although we had a hit from that phase. We had a song called "Gimme" that was a hit,
Yep.
but certainly that band didn't sound like the band that made Onion Skin, although "Gimme" did. And so there was that phase. And then there were all the things that happened after that, the various songs or compilations, or there was an album called Gizmo Mantra, which Dale, our singer, is probably his favourite record. And every time we go on tour, he's pestering us to learn songs off that. It's a record that least known album from our catalogue, And gradually we've been learning all the songs off that. Some of them we've never played before. So we're playing one of them in Adelaide at the Gov.
Oh,
know.
no.
For those of you who just want hits, it'll be over in a flash. Won't hurt at all.
um,
And
hey,
sorry, Marcus, and just to compensate, if we do something unfamiliar, we also dig into the catalogue and pull something else out that we haven't played for years as well. I'm not going to say what it is this time because it just ruins the fun when it happens.
Oh, totally. Hey, I mean, look, some of those earlier albums are obviously classics, and they're a staple in many people's lives, including while I was growing up. A couple of those original first albums were the albums I bought on vinyl the first time round. I didn't even know what happened to them. I think Mum and Dad sold them all off in a garage sale, probably for 50 cents. Oh, and now I have to pay mega bucks to get them. But anyways, one of my favorite albums that you've actually brought out, and actually not that long ago, really, but I guess in hindsight, it is a long time ago, 2009's Dancing in the Storm, which was taking all those classic songs and doing an acoustic remake of them. What an incredible idea. Whose idea was that one?
Well, the label, well, they're called Bloodlines now. What were they called then? It's, basically under the Mushroom banner.
Yep.
They were gradually doing this with a lot of Australian artists, and it kind of suited us really well because Richard and Pleasance and I both had studios, and so we could sort of complete the record that way. The funny thing about it, Marcus, is by that stage, Richard Pleasance had really left the band years ago because of the problems with his ears, but doing an acoustic record worked perfectly for him. Ian Tilley had joined the band and really essentially replaced Richard. So what we did was we put together this mega six-piece lineup, which was the original lineup with Ian Tilley, the new bass player. And the way we approached the record was getting all of us together for 2 days and basically smashing out how we were going to do each of those songs, like the reconfiguration of them. In the Morning became a sort of 12/8 sort of waltz. Talk About It became a sort of very gloomy song where it was quite perky. And, some of the songs weren't too far divorced from their origins, while others were completely detached from the mothership. And then when we tracked the record, we couldn't all be there at the same time. And it was done, we started it over the weekend of those ghastly fires in 2009. So we were on a rural property, which is where Richard's studio is. We were pinned to the computer half the time going, are we okay? Or do we have to evacuate? And many of the takes were just Richard Pleasance and I, who started the band, just sitting in a room with 2 acoustic guitars, eyeball to eyeball, and just going, right, let's lay this down. And that was really, really great fun, but, to reconnect with that, he and I in that essential collaboration. And we kept working together after that too. We've done some TV themes and we've written some other songs that I've wanted us, Boom Crash, to play, but it just hasn't happened yet.
Well, you've got a lot more life in you yet. Hey, I'm actually playing that moments in the other room, and literally what's just come on is a Great Wall. But I'll tell you, one of my favorite songs of yours is The Best Thing. It was something that I really connected to when I first heard it, and it still remains as one of my absolute favorites of yours, regardless of all the other stuff that's come along that's been brilliant. But asking you, Peter, what would be one of your songs that you still listen to and you think, yeah, that was good?
Oh gosh, you've got me here. Well, look, let's put it this way. I think that those classic hits, I think things like The Best Thing and Onion Skin are fantastic, and Dancing in the Storm, and I think we nailed them, and I think they're great, but I don't need to hear them again. I play them every time we play. I play them, and they're great. So I end up listening to things that nobody ever heard. Like I did listen, because we've learned a song off Gizmo Mantra, I started to listen to the rest of that record. One tends not to listen to one's records, and I kind of was quite gobsmacked, going, "Well, this is quite good. why didn't this get a better go?" And Dale's performances in particular, his vocals are just unbelievably good, and way eclipsing the performances from the classic songs that everybody knows. So I do get drawn to uh, things like the album Gizmo Mantra and some of the songs on Born and Born Again, which I just think are really, really good songs. I'm less of a fan of Fabulous Beast, but that was a really hard time in the band's life. We were kind of falling apart. Richard was half in and half out, and it wasn't a fun record to play, to record, and maybe that's affected my relationship to it. I'm rambling a bit here, but it's certainly songs off Born Again. There's a song called Bomb for You that nobody's ever heard that I love. Really liked listening to Ain't I Amazed off Gizmo Mantra. Wake Up Fine is a fantastic song, really fun. Anyway, all songs that nobody's heard. All right, I'll answer what I really like Caught Between Two Towns off our first album. That's a beauty. That was, yeah. Yeah, that was, we hit a spot with that one, like the chanty vocals, the Australian landscape and the lyrics, and sort of really killer chorus. So really, that's a great song.
The show that you did with Bachelor Girl, like I said, just earlier in the year, as I was looking around the room, the age demographic was just so versatile. We had obviously the mature people that have been following you since, the bloody late 80s, right through to, the younger kids as well. What do you think it is about Boom Crash Opera that has stood the test of time and continues to garner new audiences?
Well, if we knew the secret, we'd all be doing it. But I think we're fortunate to have radio airplay. It's really interesting having people. Our house is being renovated, this house now. So they're all out in the backyard with the radio playing, and, we come on every now and then. And that keeps it alive. It was interesting because we did the Good Things Festival in December, and that's not our audience at all. That's, they're like our kids or our grandkids, it's even, really young audience. Really, I remember Eskimo Joe were nervous going on because they felt like they were in the wrong, lineup. Yeah. And we're another generation past them. And we went on stage terrified and killed. The audience knew all the songs, sang along. It was an absolute hoot. All of the shows were like that too. It was unbelievable how these kids knew the songs. I wish I knew how.
That's great. Hey, so when you've had the luxury and the blessed opportunity to be in the industry for such a long time, how do you find, the industry back in the 80s or late 80s different to what it is now? Do you have to work harder or work smarter, work differently, of course?
Well, it's an interesting question. Of course, up until the end of until streaming, when the major labels were these gigantic mega structures, there was a lot of money sloshing around and a lot of money pissed up against the wall, quite frankly. The amount of money we spent making records was obscene. It was ridiculous. You could make it for a fraction of the expense. And we put some new songs on an anthology. Well, it feels like recently, it was probably 9 years ago. And the expense and time it took to make those was nothing. I did most of the work at home. We were in a studio for a few hours. You just pull the sounds, record it, you're done. And back in the 80s and 90s, oh no, we can't lift a finger until we've moved to America and we've paid an expensive producer and we've locked out a studio, and then we sort of don't know what we're doing and everybody's wheels are spinning. So there's that change. I think the income from streaming for young artists, that's an obscenity that has to be corrected. It's not a sustainable model. Young artists can't make enough money off streaming, and that's not fair. What I do like about now is the propagation of many, many more artists than there were, I think. I think the mainstream was, for rock bands, there's a big caveat, was a lot narrower in the. There were like 10 big bands and then another 10 second league. These days, people in Melbourne here, I'll hear of some act that's filling the Forum on Friday night, which is an enormous venue, and I've never heard of them, And so I think that's good. It's a bit more like folk music now. There's a lot more music out there. Touring is easier because we're not sort of driving and playing 6 nights a week. So that makes life easier. And I think I've lost my thread now. There was another point I wanted to make, but I can't remember what it is.
That's okay. We can do that for another interview. Hey, Peter, I mean, we are really fortunate at the moment. We've got a lot of massive artists touring Australia just recently, end of last year, this year. People like, and, selling out stadiums, massive venues like Harry Styles, obviously just recently Taylor Swift. And just last night in Adelaide, we had Pink. Any of these big artists that you admire and respect for one or another reason?
Yes. I'm not a listener or a fan, but I still see value in artists playing that big game. Like, you in some regards, when you go wide, you sometimes sacrifice depth. I'm talking metaphor. So to appeal to a broad audience, you mightn't be able to go as deep or weird or have all the sort of quirks and idiosyncrasies that you can exploit if you're not worried about reaching an audience. And I guess our band tried to tread that line. Sometimes we were too broad, sometimes we were too weird. But I think when you see the kind of sense of communion at a Taylor Swift concert, or the energy that a performer like Pink puts into a show like that, and how she exerts herself, and the way these people connect with an audience and create this enormous sense of community. Now, that beats football. It beats the sports.
Right.
We'll always be, we're a sporting nation, but that sense of community is something else again. All of those young women and girls packed into gigantic sports arenas to watch Taylor Swift is something else.
Respect where respect is due, absolutely. Hey, that's enough of those artists. Let's talk about your show, which is going to be at the Gov. I mean, I love the Gov. I love the crew down there. I love the venue, acoustically, lighting, just magic. In fact, I don't know if you saw it, but I took my photographer along for the show that you did earlier in the year, and we took the most magic photos of that particular night. I will have to share them with you later in case you haven't seen them. However, the Gov, Saturday, March the 2nd, you're coming back. This time, though, with 1927. Have you performed with 1927 before?
Yeah, but a long time ago. It's a long time ago. They're on after us.
Oh.
I think they sold more records than us. I think that's why. They're on after us, so we go on early and we just smash it out. And we kind of like doing that. We like going, we don't have to be fussy with encores. We can just, we just are a blitzkrieg. And that's kind of suits our style. Like I said, we'll mix it up a bit and we'll have a few surprises or tracks that are either unknown or dug out of the vault. But essentially we cover all the ground that you would expect. You've got to hear most of the Boom Crash Opera songs you want to hear, I think.
Yeah.
Nobody ever says, shall we leave the best thing out this time? That doesn't.
You better not, because that's my favourite. Don't do it to me, Peter. Hey, please tell me you're going to bring some vinyls to sell at the merch desk.
Oh, we haven't got vinyls, but we are. Apparently, the record company's working on a vinyl reissue of These Are Crazy Times, so it's in the works.
So next time, maybe. Hey, Peter, I know that I can't hold you up because you have to get back to your renovations. You got the tradies out the back waiting for you. You need to get back into it, work up a sweat. But I will see you literally in just a few days in Adelaide at the Gov on the 2nd of March. I can't wait to meet you properly face to face, and it's going to be a joy. I'm so looking forward to the show. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Marcus. See you later.